Good morning. Happy Sabbath. I have received a lot of emails through the last few years, or 5 years maybe, asking about how to send in an article to the church magazines. And the process of submitting is actually pretty simple, so I'll walk through that. And the second part, I thought I would walk through different elements that can help your article be something that would stand out. Because they receive so many submissions, there are a few best practices that I've found that can help an article be both accepted by the magazines, but also more importantly, be something that can benefit anyone who's reading the article itself. So as far as the actual publication process goes, I've included the link in the description box. You go to this link, you select which magazine you would like to submit your article to. And not that your article will be restricted only to that magazine. They can move it around if needed, but you do start with choosing one. And keep in mind that if you're a young adult, you do submit it to the Liahona, and that'll be part of the YA Weekly, the Young Adult Weekly articles. And because they're publishing online as well as in print, I'm sure they're using a lot more articles than they did in the past. So that's happy news for us. When you submit the article, I think it's kind of important to understand how that process works and the length of time it can take. Church magazines are amazing. They schedule usually about a year in advance. There's many reasons for this. First of all, they've been doing this for how many decades? So it's a well-oiled machine. Secondly, it gives them the flexibility so that when one of the brethren, or specifically the prophet, says, we need an ensign issue focused on this, they can change it up pretty easily. I don't know if they would call it easily. They're amazing. When I was working at the church office building, I was in the disability services department or office, and that's in the priesthood and family department. And I was surrounded by all the magazine people, which was awesome. I loved it. Amazing people. And I just thought I'd give them kudos for all their hard work. If the magazines feel your article is a fit and it fits one of the Liahona issues coming up, they'll reach out to you, they'll work with you on the article, and they'll also reach out to your bishop. And they'll help you edit and rewrite portions so your article is easy to read. And also so it passes correlation. And correlation is a department where they check to make sure what you're writing is in alignment with the brethren's teachings, that uniformity in the doctrine. I found their recommendations to be very, very solid and have helped my articles definitely improve and be better because of their feedback. The fourth step in this process is that they will schedule your article. But they usually build it a year in advance, right? So that means the process just takes a long time. So my first article was scheduled about 4 years after I wrote it. And it just simply wasn't time. And when it was time, I was shocked because I worked on other articles since that time and had really thought that this one was just not going to be scheduled, and I was moving on. I learned a lot in the writing process, so it wasn't a problem for me. But then they all of a sudden contacted me and said, hey, can we schedule this? And it went pretty fast there in the last few months. So my second article took about 2 years. My third article hasn't been scheduled yet. And my fourth article, that one took about 1.5 years. So that was pretty fast, actually. But again, it just really depends on what the topic is from issues of the ensign of the magazines coming up. I know a couple of you have asked if there's any way to know what topics are being addressed coming up. And so the best thing to do is submit your article. And again, there are so many different kinds of articles that they use. And what's great is they'll often work with you on your article to craft it into something that is craft it or edit it into something that works for the magazines. So the second part of this video, I'm going to talk through a few of the best practices that I've noticed when it comes to writing an article. This isn't something that should be taken as doctrine, but I do think that this helps your submission, but also helps you organize your thoughts. So I'm going to talk through 4 different elements, and like I said, I've included an infographic below in the description box that I feel like is really helpful to visualize what this process looks like. So the first thing I've learned is that it's really good to focus on lessons that you've learned and that will be applicable to other members. So yes, there's a section in the magazines that's called Latter-day Saint Voices or something like that, and those are personal narratives. There are also the kind of articles that you'll see in the rest of the Ensign that are less of a personal story that kind of stands alone and more experiences, lessons that can be applied to many. Another element that I've found to be important in the writing process is to focus on one moment in your life or one topic. And you'll notice that most articles in the church magazines, they have one main point that they're trying to get across. And all the content in the article, all the verses, quotes, everything is affirming that. It may be hard to focus on one element, but I think it's important to recognize that makes it easy to read, and it makes it so that when a reader finishes reading their article, they walk away and go, okay, I know that this article was about, loneliness or obedience or things like that. The third thing that I recommend is that you start with a hook, meaning you start your article with something that really captivates and isn't simply just a statement of doctrine. Something that really resonates, I think, with most readers. So for example, let's say you're writing an article on feeling the comforter when you experience loneliness, and you'll see this in the infographic. You could start with just, briefly sharing that one moment in your life that really, really was a lonely experience and possibly include some reasons why. And then you move on to something like, I believe everyone suffers with loneliness at some point in our lives. If you find yourself feeling lonely as you navigate a disability, you can find relief in the one who truly understood what it felt like to be alone. That's just an example, but I feel like that transition sentence moves you into the rest of the article. So it can be anything from a story that you've had, or it can be how, and I've thought about this a lot, but how even Jesus Christ on the cross said, why hast thou forsaken me? Obviously feeling very alone. And by starting with that, we all resonate with that. We all understand that. And we can also say, wow, it even happened with Jesus Christ. I understand why it's happening with me. And that's not only for a certain kind of member. That's for every member. Every member can feel that loneliness and also feel that comfort knowing that Jesus Christ understands that. So lastly, I think it's really important to format your article in an easy to read and easy to understand way. Not just for people who are looking through, thousands and thousands of articles that are submitted, but also for you as you process your thoughts, as you work through what you've learned in an experience. It's really helpful to look through other articles in the magazines and see the different kinds of structures or formats that they've used. And yes, yours can be totally unique to you, but I think it's really helpful to get ideas from other authors. There's an awesome book called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. He talks about how the best art is built upon the foundations of art before it. And I feel it's the same way. You look through, you read other Ensign articles, you read other articles in these magazines, and you build on that. You see what works, what resonated with you, what structure looks really easy to read. And there are a few elements that I would include. So a small intro that I'm giving some background and stating the goal of the article, and then 3 or more subpoints that support that goal of the article. And then you have a closing paragraph, usually something that makes it applicable to every reader. And then I also include a few scriptures or quotes that they can put in the sidebars. Hopefully they're throughout your article. I think it's a good practice to have scriptures, accounts, stories from the brethren throughout the article, but you can also add them here. Also, a quick thing to note, you want to keep your article 800 words or less. I try to aim for 600, which means I typically write 1200, and then I try to whittle it all the way down, and then I send it in, and then correlation says, you need to expand on this a bit. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, that has happened. But I do write a ton. 1200 words is probably very conservative, because if I have an article that's 600 words, I might be writing 3,000 words and then whittling it down. And I've heard quite a few people say, well, I can't cut my article down anymore. It's impossible. I totally understand. That makes sense. I think every author who's ever lived on the planet feels that way. But there's value in the restriction of size. It helps us siphon through the elements of the article that are just like, oh, that's good to have, and helps us focus on the meat, helps us focus on what's most important. And again, the staff are going to help you edit it down too. I'm not exactly sure how to edit this down anymore, and to have someone else look at it and edit it can be helpful. It's hard. It feels like you're, cutting out part of your soul when they edit it down. But at the same time, if we focus on one main point with maybe 3 sub-points, this is doable. That 600 to 800 word goal is doable, as hard as it may be. I hope this helps you in your article writing. I hope you feel like this video was helpful. Yeah, if you feel like it's helpful, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you and maybe what topic you're writing on, or if you've published articles before, tips that have helped you in the process. I'd love to comment and chat with you. Yeah, and if you feel inclined, please subscribe and share this video. For anyone who has considered writing an article, or those who haven't but have an incredible story to tell, please share it. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye, guys. Now for a tiny 30-second overview. Make sure you download the infographic below. And today we learned about submitting an article to the church magazines and walked through the different steps involved in that process. We also reviewed 4 elements that really help to have a good, solid article.